Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about unit rate. And the first thing you need to know about unit rate is that a unit rate is a special kind of rate, which we learned in our last video. It's a special kind of rate that expresses its quantity as 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the examples that I gave you in the last lecture video, the rates video, and we're going to simplify those into a unit rate. And that's really all you're doing is simplifying a fraction, okay? The simplified fraction always has 1 in the denominator. All right, so let's look at this real quick. The first example that I showed you in the rates video, we said we had 120 students for every 3 school buses. This is a rate, okay? 120 students to every 3 buses. So what I want to do is I want to find the unit rate. I want to find out how many students per bus, for 1 bus. So what I have to do is I have to get this 3 to a 1. There's only 2 ways I can reduce a number like that. I can either subtract or I can divide. In this case, I want to divide. All right? Whenever you're simplifying fractions, you always divide. So what can I divide 3 by to get 1? 3. So in order to keep this fraction or rate or unit rate equivalent to this rate, I have to do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. So I'm dividing 120 by 3. 120 divided by 3 is 40. So if I have 120 students for every 3 school buses, that means I can put 40 students per bus. Okay? 40 students per bus. This is the same ratio as this. It's just this is a unit rate. Our second example that we talked about was $5.50 for 5 pounds of potatoes. Remember in the last video I told you whenever you were dealing with money, money goes on top, units goes on the bottom. All right? So $5.50 for 5 pounds. What I want to know with my unit rate is how much is 1 pound of potatoes. So I have to figure that out. I got to divide this by some number to get me to 1. You probably already figured it out. I divide by 5. That means I have to divide this number by 5 as well. $5.50 divided by 5 leaves me with $1.10. So what this means, if I pay $5.50 for every 5 pounds of potatoes, that I'm paying $1.10 for 1 pound of potatoes. In our final example, we talked about Tanya and that she was working 60 hours every 3 weeks. Okay? 60 hours every 3 weeks. What I want to know about Tanya is how many hours does she work in 1 week? All right, so what I have to do is I have to divide this 3 by a number to get me to 1. Probably already figured out that I have to divide by 3. Once again, I'm trying to maintain this as an equivalent ratio or equivalent fraction to this number. So I have to do the same thing to the top and divide by 3. 60 divided by 3 is 20. So Tanya works 20, I'm going to say weeks, 20 hours every 1 week. And that's all there is to simplifying a rate into a unit rate. Now some of y'all might be realizing that all I'm really doing is dividing the numerator by the denominator. That gives me my unit rate. You don't have to do all this extra work. Once you realize that all you're doing is dividing the top by the bottom, you get your unit rate. But you have to express it like this. Okay? You can't just put, she works 20 hours. All right? That does not work. You have to say 20 hours per week. Okay? Same thing with the last example. You have to say $1.10 per pound. You can't just say $1.10. $1.10 what? I don't know. $1.10 per pound. And on the students, you put 40 students on 1 bus, per bus. You can't just say, 40 students. It has to be expressed as a unit rate, as a ratio, as a fraction, as a colon, as the word to. All right? It has to be expressed that way.